Hey, what's going on, everybody? Long time no talk. Had some good things happening in my life. My wife is pregnant. I started law school. God is good. Yesterday, I had a great day as well. I went to the March on Washington, watched the movie The Butler, got the whole black experience. It was great. Afterwards, I had some very strong opinions I was processing, and I didn't want to put them down right away, but I felt this morning that I really had to get them out. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to make a video on the March on Washington soon. This one's going to be about the Butler. And just stay tuned. Hopefully, I can add some other supplementary stuff to that as well. So, with the movie The Butler, very impressed. Cried a few times. My wife will tell you. Left the movie feeling a little bit unresolved, though. Something was definitely missing, and thankfully, talking to her, my wife, afterwards, it really helped me to get those things to the forefront and share them with you now. I am now not a big fan of the movie, whereas yesterday I really liked it a lot. But I'm going to use this movie to explain what I mean by that, this video. So, essentially, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about a lot of the movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, you may or may not want to watch this video. Um, Essentially, I felt as if the theme of the movie was communicated through the opening scenes very clearly for everyone to see. If you didn't catch it then, it's too bad, but that's essentially what the whole movie was about, like every other movie. With this one, though, the opening scene had young Forrest Whitaker, Cecil Gaines, in a cotton field with his mother and father. His mother, played by Mariah Carey, is raped by the slave master, and everyone in the field can hear it, including the father and young Cecil. The slave master walks out. Father's looking down at the ground, embarrassed, ashamed, just trying to stay alive for his family. And Cecil challenges him, and asks him, "Aren't you going to do something, father, daddy, whatever?" And the father, motions towards the guy, and then the slave master ends up shooting him in the head and killing him. And so, very sad film, from the jump. But then you realize Cecil's reaction to that movie essentially becomes the theme for the rest of the movie. Um, he essentially takes on this persona where he learns to just put on the face. This is explained very clearly, more clearly in the next couple of scenes when he's working for another old school butler, someone a lot older than himself, who teaches him how to be a butler and tells him, how to put on the face. Now, this isn't anything new. W.B. Du Bois talked about this. He called it the veil. Many people have written about it. It's essentially the idea that as black people, because we're intimidating, because we're scary, because we're fearful, because we're black, I'll go look it up in the dictionary, we have to then put on a face for everybody else so that we don't frighten them, so they don't run away, so that they'll accept us, so that they'll allow us to advance in society. And you learn to put on the face when you're around them, when you need their business, when you need their money, when you need their protection. But then behind their back, you kind of take off the face and relax and act black. Then you can act black. And it's a shame, but this mentality pervades a lot of Black America, whether you do it or not. If you want to be successful in this life, you kind of just accept to put on the face. And so that's what this older butler teaches him, and this theme is continually tested throughout the movie when Cecil Gaines has a son named Lewis, who's a lot more militant. He becomes a freedom rider. He goes and participates in sit-ins. He eventually joins the Black Panthers. And throughout his life, he's always getting beat up, always getting into trouble, can't afford to pay his bills, just looking crazy, changing his outfits. They're depicting him as this wild, just fight the power type of guy. But eventually, when he does learn to just go back to school, to put on the face, to wear the right clothes, to put on the right glasses, he's now transitioned into his father, and becomes successful and eventually becomes a congressman. If you didn't pick that up, go watch the movie again. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anybody in that movie who did not put on the face ended up getting killed, murdered, or something bad happened to them. And even in larger society as well. Think about it. JFK, Malcolm X, MLK, RFK, Emmett Till, and even more recently Trayvon Martin. These people did not put on the face. They did not, bow down and speak the proper English so that take the hood off their heads so that people won't be scared of them. And they paid for it with their lives. But those of us who seek to enter the larger society, we choose not to go to HBCUs because we want to learn to interact with white people. We want to master the face. We don't even know what we're saying half the time. And here is this movie starring two people who literally made their careers out of putting on the face. Oprah Winfrey put on the face for America, got famous, blew up, and owns her own channel. Be like Oprah Winfrey. Forrest Whitaker, all the Academy Awards, way more than Denzel Washington, who's a much better actor, who did Malcolm X and some other stuff. But here is the prototypical guy who is playing the butler, who knows how to put on the face, telling us all again through this movie that if you want to be successful, if you want to serve presidents, if you want to provide for your family, if you want to make an impact in this world and live to talk about it, learn to put on the face. And that disgusted me. Especially when I found out a lot of what was in the movie wasn't even in this guy's life to begin with. But that's another thing. Hollywood basically changed this guy's story around to teach us all the message to put on the face. And to somehow, to the people who did not pick up this message, you probably were, cheering when he finally got the raise that he had been asking for 20, 30 years. And felt as if, hey, there's a victory. That's what we all should strive for. Equality, equal pay. But you didn't even catch that it took 20 to 30 years for him to get paid the same. Even though he lived and talked about it, lived to tell about it, it was really a failure. It wasn't a victory. And I don't know if we have another 20, 30 years. I don't know if we have another 50 years to be fighting for basic rights that should have been given to us the day we were born in our own country, that we helped to build, that we maintain, and unfortunately that we entertain the most. It's a shame. We have more to offer than that, and I feel as if this movie really took the passive approach and glorified it and gave it to us as the proper, presented it to us as the prototypical method of advancing in America, in white America. I'm not racist, but I mean, this thing, it's a racially based movie, so that's why you hear me using these terms, back and forth. But it was definitely something I left feeling disgusted with. I'm not sure if that's strong enough for how I really felt. But if that's the way they want us to act to maintain the veil so that we can live, so that we can provide for our families, I don't want that. I don't want that America. I want my son to be able to walk through whatever neighborhood he's in and not have to fear for his life. Now, I know probably I'm going to sit him down one day and tell him, look, this is how you talk to a cop. You keep your hands there. Have a conversation with him that no other parent of Caucasian ancestry has to have with their sons. But that's because I want him to live, and that bothers me. I don't want to have that conversation. I shouldn't have to have that conversation, but I know I have to have that conversation. You understand what I'm saying? And lastly, I don't want to take up too much time, but I had a conversation with a woman on the train to the march, and she was just telling me, her, and I'm kind of getting into the next video a little bit, but let me just say this: she really felt as if 50 years later, we're worse off than we were when they had marched the original time. She was in the first march. And a lot of it had to do with the mentality of the young people. And what she was saying to me then, I agree with, and I'll explain more about it in my next video. But when I left the movie theater, I saw it playing out right in front of my eyes. As I'm leaving this theater, The same group of 13 to 14-year-old black boys who came into the movie mad late, making all the noise, interrupting everybody else. They're outside the movie theater in the parking lot. Well, not even in the parking lot, right in front of the movie theater, and they're slapboxing. They're, hitting each other in the chest, in the face, and it looks like a big brawl. The white people are all scared. Everybody's scared. Black and white spinning. We're all like, what the heck is going on? So someone called the cops. Then they start laughing about it like it's fun. And they sit down in their, raggedy looking clothes, and then no parents to be seen, and we wonder why. Anyway, that's another story. But to have seen a movie like that at that age, like The Butler, to see a man getting killed because he spoke up when his wife was being raped, that doesn't motivate us to do anything. When we see Trayvon being killed, what does it motivate us to do? To black out our profile pic and then go listen to Chief Keef on Spotify? Like, seriously? These lessons, these life stories are supposed to change us, not entertain us. Quickly, I'm sorry, last point and I'm done. In the middle of the movie, you had the Black Panthers being depicted as this evil terrorist regime. The president's talking about how to take them out, throw them all into an escalator, kill them all. And while you're hearing about you're hearing the news clips of how Black Panthers have been shot and killed, and how they're a menace to society. You see there on the board Huey Newton's principles of paying for everything you buy, giving back everything you borrow. Just high principles, lofty principles, and that's almost ignored, but it's there on the screen. But what you're hearing, what you're seeing is what you're hearing is completely different than what you're seeing. And yet, as soon as that scene passed, the overthrow of the Black Panther Party, as you can look up in the declassified FBI files, here you transition from that to disco, to entertainment, to black people doing Soul Train. And it seems like still today, nothing's changed. All the movements that try to fizzle out of every single crisis that happens in Black America eventually dies because we can't keep our attention spans long enough on doing something productive. We go back to the things that entertain us. NFL season started. We have no time for activism. We just could care less. It's a shame that we're so desensitized to our own deaths. It's one thing for other people not to value a black life or to value a Muslim life, but for us not to value our own lives, that's a problem. And we really need to look into changing these things. And I don't think the whole concept of putting on the face is the best solution. So that's my 2 cents. If you have some thoughts, please feel free to share with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless. Just a thought.